Happy first day of spring Fling'oween if you are participating. It's going on 10:20 here in the morning on Wednesday the 27th, and I haven't done any reading as of yet today, but I am going to be reading a few different things because I am going to be basically doing my spring Fling'oween TBR, which includes 2 books, one of which I'm buddy reading with a friend that I need to get done tomorrow, which I think is possible, especially if I kind of focus more of my time on it, but we'll see. And then another one that is an ebook that I'm reading by myself. So I also have 2 other books that I need to read by the end of the month that are not part of Spring of Fling'oween that I might talk a little bit about. But one of them I'm going to try to finish here in the next couple days. We'll see if that happens. But it is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I've been working on this for probably about a week, at least, a little bit more than that. And so far I'm really close to the end. I think I have like just over 100 pages left of it. So it's not impossible for me to maybe finish it today, but I haven't really had a chance to start reading yet this morning because I've been a little busy with work and stuff. And then, like I showed you, I did a little bit of studying. I'm trying to get back into the habit of doing my daily tarot and studying every day with my practice and reading of the Norse myths for my practice, and also doing my therapy work that I do by my lonesome, kind of going through the workbook that I have and reading kind of the passages within that. So trying my best to get back in that habit because I've been out of that habit for a little over a month, and it feels good to get back into it. But I've also finished my cup of coffee for this morning, so I'm gonna go get some water, and then I'll come back and talk to you guys about what I'm planning on reading for the next couple of days. Okay, so one of the other things too that I'm trying to get back in the habit of, speaking of habits, is drinking more water. I am somebody who does not really drink water ever unless it's sparkling water, and that's not good. So I think that especially with trying to help my skin, because my skin has been a travesty for the last like couple of years because I don't take care of it, and I'm really bad about sticking to a routine anymore. I'm trying to drink more water to help maybe with clearing it up, because I do know that if you drink a lot of water, it does help to clear up your skin, because basically it kind of helps to rehydrate it and everything, obviously, because water is really good from the inside to heal the outside. So basically for the last 2 days, I have been drinking out of this cup. I do wash it, don't worry, but this is about 24 ounces, and I get through about 2 of these in a day. So I'm drinking like 48 ounces every day so far. This is going on day 3, and this is my first cup of the day. I have it after I have a cup of coffee, and then usually after I have one of my energy drinks, which I don't think I'm gonna drink one of those today because more than likely I'm not gonna be able to finish this until after lunch. And unless like I somehow finish this before the end of my lunch, I just don't think I'm gonna really want to have my energy drink for any reason. Okay, so let's go into what I'm gonna be reading. So like I said, first thing, I would like to try to finish The Well of Ascension here this week. I'm on page 662, so I have a little over 100 pages left of this, like I said. The book is 785 pages, and this I'm reading outside of Spring Fling'oween for the Brandon Sanderson read-along that I am doing with some friends, namely Princess from Castle Library, along with 3 other content creators that are a part of this. Bree from Bree Cherie Reads, Brandy from Books with Brandy Shanae, and Bonnie from Books with Bonnie. I've been meaning to get to this for most of April, but I was in a huge slump here in April, so finally happy though to be able to almost be done with this. The next thing that is outside of Spring Fling'oween is I do need to start reading The Betrayals by Bridget. This is for the Royally Booked book club that my friend Princess is hosting. This is the book for April, and I have yet to pick it up. I've just been, like I said, in a really bad slump, but I want to try to get this done because I'm fairly certain that the live show is going to be within like the first weekend, maybe second weekend of May, and so I want to try to get this done as quick as I can just so that it's done over with. Aside from those 2 books, the real Spring Fling'oween TBR I have first includes my buddy read with my friend Destiny, who is reading Thinner with me. Now this is a Stephen King book under the name of Bachman. It's a fairly short book. It's like 300 and some pages. 342. So it's possible for me to get this done in 2 days because Destiny and I both kind of agreed that this would be really quick for us both to move through. And because Spring Fling'oween is only from the 27th to the 30th, I don't have a lot of time to read this. This is also though my Stephen King read for this month, which I've been meaning to, again, to get to, but specifically held it off for Spring Fling'oween because of the fact that this is kind of a horror thriller in a sense, because basically the idea of this story is that you have an overweight man after some big accident he gets into where, according to the synopsis, he commits vehicular manslaughter. He basically ends up losing weight rapidly for like almost no reason. Like he just starts to completely waste away. So I'm curious to see like what the cause of that is, if they talk about it, like if it's a supernatural thing, like it's a kind of a like karma-esque kind of thing, or if it's something more like medical based that's just very kind of strange. Like I'm not really certain what happens with that. So I'm curious to see what Destiny thinks of this too, because she is a not only subscriber of mine, but is a fellow Stephen King reader. And we've both been kind of not reading exactly the same time, but we've been reading a lot of King's work and have a lot of very similar thoughts and feelings in terms of his work. And so I'm curious to see, especially with how Richard Bachman books typically go for me, which is kind of hit or miss. I don't know whether or not I'm going to enjoy this, because there's been a couple Bachman books that I've really enjoyed, and then there's been a few where I've just been kind of not certain how I feel. Like The Long Walk, for instance, had like a ton of references apparently back to like the 60s and 70s that I did not catch because I did not grow up in that time period. And so like a lot of it kind of just went over my head, but the overall story was really cool. I liked the idea of it. So I've kind of been like hit or miss really with the Bachman books in particular. So, and again, this is like an older book of Stephen King's. This is from back in 1984. So we'll see whether or not this is good. Basically, I've hit a point with King's work with having read The Talisman and Black House back to back, where I have found some issues with, I think, Stephen's writing. But again, like I said in the reviews for those, I don't know whether or not it's King's writing or if it was his co-author's writing that affected the way that I enjoyed those two books, because they're some of my least favorite books I've ever read from Stephen King's catalog. Like they're probably the worst ones I've ever read, which is really saying something. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that it was co-authored with Peter Straub, and if Peter's kind of involvement in those really changed a lot of the story for me to where I just didn't enjoy it at all, or if it's because we're in a time period of King's work where they're just not as good. And I think that this is going to be a really interesting indicator if whether or not we're in a phase of that, because I do also know that especially in the 80s, there is a time where a lot of people seem to not really care for King's work in that era because it gets a little crazy, it gets a little weird, which is an account for the fact that Stephen King, for most of his writing career, specifically though in the 80s, was very much a alcoholic and a drug addict, and a lot of that came through in his writing. And I'm gonna say now too, in May, I'm going to be reading it for the first time, and I am terrified. I am so freaking scared for that, because that is by far the scariest book I've ever heard about when it comes to King. Like everyone is terrified of it, but it's also like a really interesting story. And I do know of a very particular scene in that book that everybody is like, it's a stomach dropper, and I'm gonna say now it involves basically a bunch of 12-year-olds gangbanging another character, which is not great, and it's all in the name of saving the day kind of thing. Like it's the most infamous scene in any of King's work, and I'm scared of what's to come with that, because I also hate clowns. I don't like clowns. Like I'm not terrified of them, but I don't like clowns. It's not a fan. Not a fan. So I'm a little worried about, like, especially if this one is not great, how am I gonna do with it? Because that's a nearly 1,200 page book by itself. Anyway, this is the one I'm working on for this month that is gonna be completing the prompt for, I think, a thriller I'm trying to remember the prompts for this. Yeah, I think it's a thriller or horror book that this one is completing. And then the other book that I'm going to be reading that is for the prompt to have a book with pink or yellow on the cover is The Suffering by Rin Chapeko. This will be my first Rin Chapeko book, first of all, but this also has kind of like, I think, supernatural, very kind of horror elements involved in it again. And I don't really know much about this. I really don't. I have no idea what I'm getting into with this. It just looks creepy. And I've been meaning to read Rin Chapeko for a long time because I have several of her books physically and on Kindle, and I would really like to be able to start at least one of them. And then especially with May being AAPI month, I would like to try to maybe read more of her work if especially I like this one. And this one is about as short, if not shorter than thinner. So I feel like I could crank both of these out in this next 4 days with not really many problems, especially with Rin Chapeko. I feel like because she has more of a YA style, it'll be even faster for me to go through that as opposed to something like Stephen King, because with Stephen King, I tend to really take a lot of time to digest and really see how the writing is and whether or not the story comes to life as easily with a little bit more adult content involved with it than I would with something that's more YA. So that's kind of my plans for this week. I feel like that what I'm going to do is kind of get started with this at some point today and then get through some of thinner. I would like to, like I said, get through about half of this today and then finish the other half tomorrow. I need to get back to doing some work for the rest of the day, and I will check in with you guys when I've made some progress on any of these. We'll see. Hey guys, so it's going on 3 o'clock now. I've got dressed. I'm on my second cup of water. I don't know how many of you guys are aware, because I don't know how many people exactly are my regular people who watch my vlogs or people that are new, but I did want to update on the Kaya situation for those of you that have been, listening in on what's been going on. For those of you that don't know, on Saturday, my parents' dog, who is about 4 years old almost, she had to go into emergency surgery over the weekend. Actually, technically, her surgery was yesterday, or Monday. And basically she had bladder stones, and we don't really know what exactly caused it. It's basically been told to us that it's the product of several UTIs that were undetected, but we don't really know how that's possible. So there's no telling what could have caused it. But yesterday my mom was able to pick up Kaya from the surgery because the surgery went well. Everything was fine. She was a little grumpy because she doesn't like being in places that she's not familiar with. Anyway, she was brought home yesterday, but she actually could not get in the house. My mom's basically was worried and over the day has several panic attacks, which I'm not surprised by, because I think if I were in her position exactly, I would feel the same, because I was already by myself having panic attacks, worrying about Kaya, even though I couldn't really go do anything to help her because I had to work. And when I was working, Robert had gone to try to help yesterday and today, and eventually basically they got her in the house. They pretty much had to drug her up according to what the doctors told my mom about, in terms of how much to give her of the pain meds and sedatives that she's already going to have to take with, being post-surgery and everything. So they gave her basically a cocktail of the medicine that she was already taking to drug her up enough basically for my mom and my husband to basically put a sling around her of sorts with a bed sheet and carry her inside and put her on a table and then take that inside kind of thing. So it ended up working out great. She's comfortable now, which is I think the most important thing, because while she may have been comfortable in the car for the time being, it wasn't conducive, because for one, she's going to have to use the bathroom at some point, and hopefully soon she can get that all figured out with going outside and doing that. I'm just thankful she's safe, she's okay, she's now much more comfortable with being in the house and being with the family. Now it's a matter of just getting her to heal effectively. And my sister is coming up here on the end of her semester. She's got finals, I think, here in another week or so, sometime next week, I think, or when finals start for her. So she is going to be coming back home here in a couple of weeks, and I think she's even going to come home maybe this weekend to try to help take care of Kaya, because obviously both my parents work. My dad does work from home, but he doesn't have the physical capability to always take care of Kaya, and especially not to be able to lift her in any way if she needed it. And my mom works in a school, so she is 5 days of the week, you know, out of the house for 8+ hours. A little Kaya update for everybody that might be wondering how she's doing. She's doing much better now, especially that she's in the house, and I'm just very grateful for my husband, honestly, because he not only went over yesterday after getting out of work, after having had to go to work at 5 a.m. in the morning on Tuesday, and come home for a couple hours just to be able to relax before going over and trying to help my parents, and spending like 5, almost 6 hours trying to do something that didn't end up working, to today, on his day off, going to my parents' house for another 4 hours to get Kaya inside. So I know my parents are very grateful for him. I feel very grateful for him for going to help, because I can't, because I have to work. I can't leave the house. I don't have the ability to just drop everything today and say, like, I need to go do this. That's not what I'm able to do. And we have Oscar too, who needs to be kept at home, because having him with Kaya is not a good idea when she's not feeling good. And speaking of Oscar, he's decided to make an appearance. Hello, little boy. He decided to make his appearance because I think he heard me saying his name or something. Or at the very least, he's trying to say, Mom, shut up, you're talking too much. I don't know. Either way. Oh, thank you. Thank you for kisses. He's been such a good boy today. And yesterday he was being a bit of a turd. So today's a much better day than it was yesterday for us. But I think he's telling me he might need to go out. But I don't know, because there's a big scary truck outside that's cutting down trees and stuff, and he don't like it too much. I don't know what's his deal. This is actually the longest he's stayed on my lap, so I think he's not doing okay. I think he's a little scared and he needs love. So I'm gonna go give my puppy some love. And I haven't read anything as of yet today, because I've been very distracted. I've just been kind of chomping at the bit, waiting to hear about how Kaya's doing. So, oh, and Oscar's down for a nap. Okay, that works. So I got a little less than 2 hours left of my work day, because it's now just after 3, and I end work around 5. More than likely what's gonna happen is after I get done with work, I'm gonna get started with dinner immediately. And then I think this evening, I'm gonna just tell my husband, you know, I wanna hang out with you. We'll sit in the living room together, but I want to read my books. I want to get through my books today. I wanna finish the Well of Ascension and then get through Thinner and go from there. Like, I don't really wanna do anything. I don't wanna go anywhere. I just want to do that. That's all I wanna do. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys probably sometime tomorrow, where I'll actually have an update on my reading. Okay, well, I've got some time while stuff cooks for me to talk with you guys about what the agenda is for tonight, because plans have changed. So my husband is not going to be home until much later tonight, because since he was out on his day off hanging out with my parents and trying to, yes, Oscar, that's your toy. He is very much in need of my attention. Anyway, so because he, really? Goober. He's basically gone this evening, and I'm gonna have the evening to myself, do whatever. I'm in the process of making dinner, obviously. I'm gonna eat my dinner and probably watch an episode of Survivor, and then I'm gonna come back in the office and do what I've been doing for the last couple of nights, which is alternating between reading and editing a video that I've been trying to work on. It is my vlog from last week for Realmathon in Aurelium. I think I'm nearly done with it. I don't have too much footage left to really go through, so I think I should be able to get that done tonight and get that exported. So what I plan on doing is, like I said, obviously getting through I think first and foremost, the Well of Ascension first, since I have a little more than 100 pages left of this, get through this and then and alternate that with editing. Basically, once I finish the Well of Ascension, I will move directly into reading Thinner by Stephen King, which whether that's gonna be while I'm still in the process of editing, I don't know. It's gonna depend on how much time sprint-wise I'm gonna get, because I'm basically doing my D12 sprints that I do for reading with also editing. So I think that that's gonna be a good plan. Again, I really don't know what time my husband's gonna come home. He actually is out right now, he said, because he just called me before I started filming, saying that he was gonna run a few more errands, and then he also was going to have dinner at his grandmother's house and visit her, and they were gonna play cards, which cards could basically have him home anytime between like 10:30 and 11. So he does have to work tomorrow though, so he can't be out all night. So he'll be home at some point, just probably not until about the time I'm gonna be going to bed. So there's that. But anyway, I'm gonna get on with the rest of my cooking, and I think I'm gonna watch a YouTube video in the process, just because I'm gonna have to wait for some of this stuff to finish up. Like, I've got another 8.5 minutes basically before I can move on to the next step of the recipe, which I'm not sponsored by HelloFresh. I so wish I was, because Robert and I literally live off of this. Like, there is no other cooking really done in this house anymore unless it is HelloFresh, because it's the easiest, and I'm so awful. Sorry about that backlighting. I'm trying to find like the best way to do lighting in this house still. But I basically have gotten into this thing where like I don't cook really anymore unless it's HelloFresh, because I'm otherwise way too lazy. And I think for the convenience sake of it, it definitely is that way for Robert and I both. Like, we would much rather have something that like we can follow a recipe. We don't like, even if we don't know like what exactly it is, and like we're not necessarily like used to like all the spice that they might use in something. It's a little bit more adventurous in that way, and we like that. And again, it takes a lot of the guesswork for me out of basically having to figure out what to do for dinner. Like, the most guesswork I have to do is making a choice between the 6 meals that I get every week. I really like it. I feel like, honestly, when it comes to my mental sanity, that is one of the saving graces I have, is HelloFresh, because I do not want to have to figure out every single day what we're making and then try to get all the groceries for it and then try to remember the recipes, and like I just can't put that much mental energy into something that I need to put that energy into something else. I only have so much disk space in this brain, and cooking does not really need to have too much. But most of the time it takes up way too much space in my brain, and I'm done with that. I'm so sick of it. I don't want it anymore. And it's one of the things I think Robert and I both agree on, where like it's just easier to do something like HelloFresh. Also, I totally forgot earlier, I did technically basically just complete the fall themed drink idea, because every day I have a cup of coffee, and truthfully, coffee and or tea, it depends, but I typically drink coffee more often, is something in the fall, which is one of my favorite seasons ever. It's something that I really enjoy about the fall. I feel like that it has a very different kind of feel though in the fall, because it's getting colder, you know, and a cup of coffee is just something that always brings me joy, especially during that time of year when it gets really cold. Like, I can remember when we moved in here at the beginning of October, and it just started to get really chilly, and I'd wake up in the morning and have to start ready for work. I'd get that cup of coffee and I'd drink it and feel how cold it was outside. And it just, like, it had a whole different hit than it does drinking a cup of coffee in the summer. I'm excited now because we're gonna get to have iced coffee soon. And, well, I guess you could get iced coffee anytime, really, but I prefer to drink iced coffee in the summer. Anyway, that's kind of the drink I decided for with the fall theme, was a cup of coffee, because it is what I drink the most often any time of the year. But specifically in the fall, it is a very comforting kind of drink for me, and it really kind of just makes me enjoy the season, I think, a lot more. So that's kind of what I decided with that. So anyway, I'm gonna finish up dinner here, watch an episode of Survivor, like I said, and then we'll kind of get started with the sprints of work.
I've been lying here for too long. I don't know what else to do. I wanna get away from every little thing just to try to make it through. thinking about my options, every detail in my head. But it doesn't really matter, nothing matters, so I cry instead.
Well, that didn't really take me nearly as long as I thought it was going to, so I think what I'm going to do is after this video is done exporting, I'm going to get my footage for yesterday and Monday's vlog together and get that set up, and I think we'll get that started to edit when I do my next work sprints. So there's that. Good morning, everybody. It is going on 9 a.m. on Friday the 29th, and one second while I grab it. I finally finished the Well of Ascension. I finally finished it. Oh my God. Okay, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed this. It wasn't perfect. I do think that there was some pacing issues for me in terms of I just feel like I was dragging through this for a while I was enjoying it and wanting to go back into it and reading a lot of it every time I got into it, but I do think that some of the pacing was not my favorite. However, I think that this is so far the favorite of the trilogy of Era 1 because I just feel like there's so much more that happens here that I was able to grasp onto, understand. There were some really interesting twists by the end of it, and I really am excited to see how book 3 in the end of Era 1 goes because massive things changed in the course of the end of this book. I'm so excited. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I put off reading Brandon Sanderson for so long because I just am enamored with what he's able to do. I can't believe I spent so long never reading his books after having been recommended him so many times over the course of not just my booktube life, but my real life from friends who read fantasy. I don't know what it was. I just feel like, you know, he was kind of one of those authors that wasn't as attainable, just kind of like how I originally thought of like George R.R. Martin and Robert Jordan. But oh my gosh, am I so glad I finally started reading Brandon Sanderson with this read along. I'm just, I have really enjoyed this so far, and I'm so excited to be able to finish the series of Era 1 here in May. And then we're also, for the read along, reading a short story from the bind up of Arcanum Unbounded, which is, the specific one is called The 11th Metal, I believe, and it's supposed to be a prequel to the Mistborn era, in terms of like, it's supposed to, I think, talk about exactly what the 11th Metal is, how it was developed, because in this series, the 11th Metal is kind of like a myth. In some cases, it's not like thought of as an actual like thing because nobody knows what it is and what it does. But there's a lot that happens at the end of this that I can't talk about because it's like just, it's so much. But I'm so excited for the live show of this because I know there's going to be everybody geeking out about the end of this because, oh my God. It was so good. It was so good. I'm so excited. So finally finished that. I do have to still put my points into this for Realmathon and Magical Readathon, but let me grab my bullet journal real quick so I can tell you what exactly that counted for both. Okay, so for Realmathon, the Well of Ascension was counting for 2 prompts to add points to my team, which is Team Bale, and it was for the prompts Claim Your Territory and Build a Castle, which total is about 4 points. So I don't know whether or not it's going to be much, but you know, we'll deal with that when we get to it. Thinner and my other book for Spring Fling'oween, The Suffering, also count for stuff. For Realmathon, Thinner, which I did start yesterday. Sorry, Destiny, I'm really behind, but she's also like not finished with it yet. But the audiobook, how I'm listening to it, I could get it done today, so that's fine. But for Thinner, it's going to be depleting points from another team, which this one is only counting for 1 prompt, and that's hand to hand. And then The Suffering by Rin Chapeko is adding points to my team for Bale, and it's going to add 5 points by completing Train New First Years, Make Technological Advances, Take Cover, and Build a School. So that's going to be a good several points here in the next couple days. I do want to start The Suffering later today once I finish Thinner. The audiobook, which I have on Scribd that I'm listening to while reading, says I've got basically less than 4 hours left with listening to it on 2 times speed. And while I'm here, this is interesting, and not necessarily in a good way. I'll get to that in a minute. But let me go over what exactly is counting for what with Magical Readathon. So the Well of Ascension is counting for a prompt. It's counting for Conjuration, my Conjuration class, which it kind of sucks that I think I'm not going to really be able to complete all of my classes for Magical Readathon. But what's nice about that is that some of these prompts I will be able to carry over later. Like 2 of the books that I'm not going to be able to read, I am picking up in May anyway. And then the other 2 that I'm not going to be able to complete, I can complete anytime between now and the next semester. So it's kind of like as if I was like doing summer school kind of thing, which I think my character would do. It would definitely be something where like she definitely struggled her first semester kind of thing. Like I could go into a whole thing with that, but we're not gonna right now. But this was Conjuration, which I think was supposed to have an element of light on the cover, which this orb here has like light coming off of it. So, and then Thinner was going to be for my astronomy class, which I don't remember what the prompt was for that, but I know that it had fitted. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with everything as of now, but I'm going to quickly talk about Thinner since this is in particular for Spring Fling'oween. I'm having some issues with it because first and foremost, the story talks about this man named Bill who he is kind of overweight. Basically, there's a lot of fat phobia that's basically built into this where obviously, you know, you have somebody who is overweight, starts off overweight. Everyone talks about how he's on a fast track for a heart attack, heart disease, diabetes, all these things, which may or may not be true, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of people seem to judge him because of his weight, and I'm not a fan of that. Basically, I understand that it's kind of the point of the story. I still don't have to like it kind of thing, but it is the point of the story. On top of that though, basically what happens is you find out that Bill accidentally killed somebody with his car, and you find out how that happened, which I'm not going to say because it does spoil some of the story, but basically he runs over an older woman who is I'm going to say Romani because I don't want to use the slur that is involved with it, but I'll leave it here just so you know basically what they call them because it's basically used as the only way to describe them in this entire book. So basically he runs over this older woman who's part of this clan, and one of her family members, I want to say it might be her husband, I don't really know, they don't really say exactly how this person's related to her, but he says that at one point in the courtroom that this man comes up to him and like grabs his face and says Thinner. And ever since that, he starts to lose the weight. So Bill believes he's had a curse placed upon him by the family or, you know, the person that came up to him at the court following the vehicular manslaughter. And basically he just rapidly starts losing weight. Like he, in the span of, I think a month, loses like 70 pounds, which is incredibly unhealthy. Basically, there's a lot of stuff going on with that too, where like, even though he's been losing the weight and had wanted to lose weight for a while, the manner of which it happens, it's kind of like everyone's like afraid of him. His wife doesn't know what to do with him. His daughter is like terrified, and like the thing is that they're scared because they think they're going to lose him. It's not that like him being skinny has like ultimately changed his entire personality, but at the same time Bill becomes kind of very obsessed with the idea that something has happened to him that he needs to figure out how to reverse. And his wife and daughter just basically feel like he's dying and they don't know what to do, and so they're kind of like, in a sense, like pushing him away, but they're not. Like it's very strange. I think in general, I like the idea of the plot in a sense that it is a kind of a curse, that there's something to be said about, you know, your actions do have consequences. I like that idea. The thing I don't care for is the fact that there's a lot of stereotyping in terms of the Romani clan, and the fact that the stereotypes lead to the fact that they're crooks, that they're swindlers, that they're con people, that, they're just not good people. Also, there's a couple times where the N word with the hard R is mentioned, and it's one particular character that says it because he's very obviously not like a great guy. He's kind of a jerk. So it makes sense why he specifically would say it, but I do want to make that note that there is the N word with the hard R involved in this story. I don't know what it is, but I feel like with the Richard Bachman books, I'm not as big of a fan because yes, the writing is similar between King and Bachman, but Bachman is almost kind of a loose cannon in a lot of ways, whereas King, when he writes under his own name, is a lot more careful, I think, in some capacity of how he writes. But then again, this is written during the 80s when a lot of his time was spent with drugs and alcohol, so is it really that far-fetched to say that that had any influence in his writing? Not at all. So I'm not sure how to feel about it. It's definitely not going to be a favorite of mine. I don't think. I'm just meh, and I feel uncomfortable. I don't know how to feel about it. So we'll kind of see where this goes. Again, I should be able to finish this today if I get the audiobook started soon. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm currently on page 89, and this is like a 350 almost 350 pages, like 340 something. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, I'm too lazy to go get my camera that's in the office, but I did want to update because I did finally finish Thinner by Stephen King. So I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars, and I still stand by what I said earlier, where I feel like that I'm just really uncomfortable with the idea of, like I said, there being a lot of kind of demonizing of the Romani people. However, the further you go in, there is a point in the demonization, in a sense. Basically the reason why the Romani people are looked at in this way is, for one, based on the time period that this book was written in. I had a conversation with my mother earlier today as I was talking about basically why I have a hard time with the fact that like King uses things like the hard R version of the N word and the slur that's involved with Romani people. And basically my mom and I both came to the same conclusion that truthfully it's just a product of its time. And I've said this before about King's work, especially stuff that's from the 80s. They're very much products of their time and don't age as well, because King has more recently basically said that he wrote a lot of this under the influence of drugs and alcohol, and most of it he really doesn't remember. And he has apologized for his poor language choices from this era, because again, the things about the way people spoke and the way that they used certain words were more accepted back in the 70s and 80s. It doesn't necessarily excuse anything that is said in this. It's still, a little jarring, and it's still not necessarily like great to see these things. But very similarly to like if you're reading a classic book and you see like classic misogyny in like a Jane Austen novel or something, it's something that was pretty much super relevant at the time. It was what was going on in culture. So you can't really 100% knock something as old as this for the things that are in it. You can still bring it up in terms of bringing up a conversation of why this is bad and why these things shouldn't be used. And like I said, King has basically learned from his former writings and he has improved. So I think that's the most important aspect. I just felt like there were some points where I was a little bit more uncomfortable, similar to how I felt with The Talisman and Black House's usage of the N-word very, very liberally. And this one in particular, though, I did like this concept a lot more. The execution, I thought, though, was a little iffy. Again, I feel like it is, in a sense, demonizing an entire culture of people. Keep in mind, too, though, that this is a very supernatural-based story. It does involve a curse of sorts. So how much of this really is directed toward the Romani people and whether or not they're capable of these things in a stereotypical sense, I don't think so. But the idea of them being swindlers and con men and things like that that's mentioned very often in this book is a little unsettling. But again, referring back to what I said earlier, It's something that was thought of back then. You wouldn't necessarily say this anymore because it's a stereotype and it's, in a sense, kind of not racist, I guess, but like the equivalent of that. It's so weird to try to talk about the way that I dislike how these people are written about without remembering that this is old. This book is going on 40 years old, as like it's 38 as of this year. So it is so hard to put myself at the distance of being a modern person reading a book that is almost 40 years old, that has a very different connotation now than it would back when it was originally published. This is one of the issues I've realized with reading Stephen King in general, is I had such a good taste for some of the newer things he's written when I first started reading him. Then I decided to go all the way back and work my way up. This is the hazard of doing this, especially in this very modern setting where the books are going on 50 years, and it's frustrating because I know King writes better. I think truthfully, based on how I felt with Black House and the Talisman and now this, I feel like I'm in an era of Stephen King that most people talk about when it comes to his poorest writing, where it's not really as good, it's not as interesting, and a lot of times it's just bizarre and also a little upsetting in terms of like the fact that, you know, there's things that are brought up that you don't hear at all anymore because it's not good. I will say this was the most interesting Richard Bachman book I have read in a long time. It's also, I feel like, one of the few I feel like I got a real good grasp on. I feel like that this one being placed in a very modern setting obviously made it a lot easier and a lot easier to kind of divulge into the story. I'm very lukewarm about a lot of it. It's definitely a good concept, I think, in general, of the plot, the idea of a man having a curse put upon him and then him ultimately basically literally withering away every single day and having to figure out how to reverse that. I like that concept of a plot. Some things about this I really don't know how to feel. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that there, but I also realized that my second book that I was going to read for Spring Fling'oween, which was going to be The Suffering by Rin Chapeko, is actually the second book in a duology. The first book being The Girl from the Well, and I do not believe I own that book. I do not believe I own the first one. So I don't think I'm going to be able to read that unless somehow I pick it up tomorrow while I am out and fly through that. Which it would work because the type font on that book is yellow, so it would count for the same prompt that The Suffering was going to count for because I needed something with pink or yellow on the cover. So that could work if I decided to go and pick it up at the bookstore that I frequent, which I might, just because, and it's a fairly short book. It's probably about as short, if not shorter, than this one. So I could also get the audiobook for it and work my way through that, but I also want to start the Betrayals. I think I'll start the Betrayals tonight before I go to bed. And I think maybe once I pick up the physical book of The Girl from the Well, I'll start getting through the audiobook of that too, through Scribd, if I can find it on Scribd or maybe on Libby. We'll see. We'll see what I can find. But I think no matter what, tomorrow I'm going to try to read the entirety, or listen maybe to the entirety of The Girl from the Well. And then after that's done, get through the Betrayals, which, though, once I get through The Girl from the Well, that'll be the end of my Spring Fling'oween TBR, so that's pretty much it. The Betrayals is for a whole different thing, just kind of like how the Well of Ascension was. So that's all I can really say for right now. I'm flabbergasted, and I've got Destiny sending me messages as I was filming this, so I gotta go see what she said about this and figure out my thoughts on this, because good lord. Hello guys, don't worry, I'm parked. I just parked at Costco because I'm out doing errands today, and while I'm doing errands, I'm listening to The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. I'm like on chapter 15, something of this. I'm basically like a couple hours into the audiobook. I have like just over 5 hours left of it by listening on double speed. I don't know how to feel about this. I really don't. Like, part of me knows that the part of the story is you're supposed to feel like you're missing something. Like, I can't even really explain half of the story because I feel like I'm just completely lost. There's 3 characters, one of which I've only now heard for the second time in the story, once at the very beginning, and I just listened to a chapter of hers before getting into Costco. The other 2, one of which is like a teacher at this like super prestigious school. I think it's supposed to be like a school for chess players because they keep talking about the grand jeu, which is in French, the big game. And the way that they talk about it is it's kind of like a chess match kind of thing. And I feel like this school is somewhere based in France. I don't know. There's a lot of like French names, French places, that kind of thing. So I feel like that this is somewhere in France. But she's kind of got this whole thing where she's got a chip on her shoulder because she's the only woman that is in any way a teacher at this school. Because it's an all-boys school. It's kind of looked down upon in a lot of ways because of that. Then you have one of the other characters who he is a former student there who then became a part of the government and was basically a minister of culture. And then at the very beginning, you learn that he's been deposed of his position and is told to go back to Montvert, which is the school that he went to, and just hang out there, like not even be a teacher, not do anything. He has to go stay there for whatever reason and continue his studies of the grand jeu, apparently, because that has a big role in the government. I feel like, honestly, I'm completely lost on most of this story. Like, there's a plot involved with the male character. I get the small character we have. She's called the Rat, and she's kind of like somebody who flies under the radar. I have no idea what her whole point is. And then the other character who's the teacher, like, I don't understand her thing, but she's kind of attracted to Leo, who is our male character. But she's kind of not. She resents him for some reason. I have no idea. Like, seriously, like I said, I have like gone through the first probably close to third of this book, and I'm so lost. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to think. I'm not even really a big fan of the writing. I feel like it's very like kind of pedantic, and I feel like very highbrow to where it's almost insulting to some degree. I don't understand like what the whole point of this story is supposed to be, and I think that like it's supposed to have some kind of like mystery element to it, but I have not got to that part as of yet. I don't understand anything. I'm honestly debating DNFing it because I don't understand a goddamn thing of what's going on, and I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I don't know what's going on, because like it would be one thing if like there's a mystery like right up in front and center, and like that's how we're like trying to figure out things, but literally this whole story is nothing but a lot of super rich, you know, highbrow things going on. And I feel like the lowest of the low person trying to understand anything. And like there's political stuff involved too that I guess has some bearing on this whole thing. And I'm too stupid to figure out what the hell's going on, basically, is what I'm thinking. So I'm going to try to listen to this some more while I'm walking around and doing errands. I'm going to be at Costco. I have to go to Target. I'm going to go to the bookstore to go pick up The Girl from the Well, and maybe a couple other things, and then I'm gonna go get my nose pierced. I'm getting my nose re-pierced because back in December I ended up having to take my nose piercing out. I went to change hoops basically, and I couldn't get the new one through, and so I don't know what happened. It closed up so quickly, so I have been waiting to go get my nose redone for a while because I wanted the nose to heal basically. Like, you can still kind of see where like my nose ring used to be, so I think that should be helpful with getting it re-pierced, but I wanted to wait until it was fully healed to go get it re-pierced. I didn't want to cause any issues, you know, kind of thing like that. So I'm gonna go get that done. That's at 4:15 today. I have an appointment, and then after that I'm gonna head toward home and then go to another grocery store and basically pick up the last of my groceries, because pretty much the last of my groceries is my lunches that I have for the week. because I, work from home. And this grocery store is the only place that actually has like decent selection of my lunches that I really like. So we're going to be out and about today. We're going to do some shopping and stuff. And I think the bulk of my shopping though is going to be here at Costco, because a lot of the stuff I need is basically going to be stuff that's going to last me for the next couple of weeks. Because now that my contracting agency pays me bi-weekly, I have to kind of plan out, what exactly I get every couple weeks that's going to last me for, however long. And thankfully, because a lot of the stuff at Costco lasts for much longer than a couple of weeks, this is stuff that like I can get now, not have to worry about for like another maybe month and a half, depending. And then, we'll be good to go kind of thing. So, also I did decide to not get a coffee today outside of my normal thing, and I've been drinking my water because I haven't drank any water yet today. I had 1 cup of coffee this morning at home, but I didn't stop to get a coffee, so I'm very proud of myself that I decided to bring my water. I feel like, honestly, if I get through Costco and I'm still not really jiving with this book, which I probably am not going to, I'm gonna DNF it. Like, I'm not gonna suffer through more of it. I've gone past the point that I usually decide to DNF books, which is at 10%. I am like 3 times past that. So I feel like, honestly, I'm so lost that if I get through another couple chapters of this and I'm just like, I don't know what the hell's going on, I'm not interested, I'm fine to DNF this. The mystery aspect should kick in here pretty soon. So I'm kind of holding out to see what that is, if it does show up at all, but we'll see. So anyway, I'm gonna go to Costco and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, we are back in the car. I think that is the fastest I have ever been in and out of a Costco. I got here just about 1 o'clock and it's now like 1:35. That's the fastest I've ever gone through Costco, and also with checkout being a Saturday. So that's awesome. But I did grab a couple books because I saw them on the table in there, and they're 2 that I've been wanting for a really, really long time. First one is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I've already read this. I listened to the audiobook of this and I absolutely loved it and have been like wanting a copy of it ever since. But the other one I got is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. Heard nothing but great things about this, and I've been really wanting to get this one for a while. So it's going on 20 to 3 now. I just got out of the mall from the bookstore. Unfortunately, I did not end up finding The Girl from the Well by Rin Chapeko. I couldn't find it anywhere, which kind of sucks, but it's okay. I think I'm just gonna chalk it up to not reading it this month, which is totally fine. It's whatever. I'll show you what I did get at the bookstore. So I got 4 books, first of which being my book for May's book club for the Royally Booked book club, which is the Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson. This is the book that we're reading for that. So finally got a copy of that. Figured I would since I'm here. I also managed to snag a couple books that I didn't think were going to be in there because I've been hearing that they were on back order for so long, but I did end up getting House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know whether I'm going to like these. I have never read a Sarah J. Maas book in my life. I have the entire Court of Thorns and Rose series. I have the entire Throne of Glass series. Never read them. The last one I got is The Conference of the Birds, the 5th book in the Miss Peregrine series by Ransom Riggs. A couple weeks ago, I got accidentally book 6, which I did not know was not the next one I needed in the series. So I think I have all 6 of the books now. So these are the 6 books I got today. These are all I'm gonna buy today. I don't want to buy any more. I bought enough. And while I didn't find necessarily the ones I was looking for, that's okay. It's whatever. It happens. But so anyway, now I gotta run over to Target, and then after that I'm gonna be getting my nose pierced and stuff. So I'm still gonna vlog for the rest of the day today because it is the last day of spring Fling'oween, but I don't think I'm gonna be reading anymore, just because I couldn't find The Girl from the Well. If I somehow manage to find it at Target, I'm gonna get it. And I also managed to get through the mall without getting a bubble tea, which I'm pretty proud of myself for, but I'm running low on my water here. I've got like a little bit of this left and I'm very thirsty, so I'm probably gonna end up drinking the rest of this before going into Target. So I think I will get a drink while I'm in there, probably just like a pop or something. Unless Starbucks is not super busy, which on a Saturday, especially like mid-afternoon, it will probably be busy. Who knows? I have like a little bit more than an hour though before I should probably head over to the piercing parlor because it's going to take me a hot minute to get there from this side of town. So I don't know. And I still have to go through and like get the rest of my groceries and stuff. Anyway, I'm going to stop yabbering and I will see you guys after I get my nose pierced, because I think that's going to be the next time I'll probably be able to talk with you guys a little bit more in depth. But yeah, let's go get stuff done.
Hey guys, so I'm currently in the middle of sprints right now, and I want to end this vlog here because I don't really have anything else to update you guys on. I DNF'd the Betrayals earlier today after listening to more of it while I was in Costco because I couldn't focus on it, and I was so bored with it that I just didn't see the point in continuing. So I completely DNF'd it, and I never found the girl from the well, so I just scrapped that entirely from finishing that up this month, which is fine. It's not really that huge of a deal. It's totally fine, but I did finish Thinner for Spring Fling'oween, and I ended up finishing the Well of Ascension, so feel like that's really awesome. Like, the fact that I could have completed those two by themselves, I think was a feat with how this whole month has gone basically for me. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. So I'm basically going to end this vlog here because tomorrow starts the 1st of May, and with that I have a lot of other vlogs I am working on. I'm working on a weekly vlog for Desertathon and Witchathon, which will basically be, it's because they both run the same month, so it'll basically be one vlog for that. And then also I am working on a vlog tomorrow for my Wheel of D20 stuff because that is all going to be done during the day tomorrow. So gotta end this one here since it's also the end of Spring Fling'oween. So hope you guys all had a really good time with the Spring Fling'oween. I had a really, okay time. I wish I would have really been more present, I guess, for a lot of it, but I feel like that I was kind of playing catch up and I just didn't really get to enjoy Spring Fling'oween as much as I wanted to. But hopefully with Camp Weekendween, which I think happens this summer, hopefully I'll be able to participate with that and have a little bit more fun than I did this time. And it's not anybody's fault but my own. I just had a lot of stuff happen. Like today I was running around like crazy, and I just had a really rough month that I think, while the last week was pretty good for the most part, I definitely feel like my reading has been in a slump, in a sense where like I've just been slogging through books. But I'm getting better. I'm getting back on the horse. Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow starts a new month. So we are going to do the best we can. So I will see all of you guys when it comes to that. But thank you all so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.